My name is Paul. My name is Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Wow. I was outside hanging out, and Anthony actually brought me up here.
Uh-huh.
We were both once in the Army.
All right.
Mr. Navy Man, I have a mission for you.
All right.
Mr. Navy Man, I have a mission for you.
No, you need to stay on the mic there because there's people watching out there. They won't hear you. Go ahead.
I would like for you to help me remove the word society from academic speech. It was used once tonight, but I think
Why? What do you mean by that?
the word society is nebulous, and it is used to justify so many actions. At least I'm going to try to represent people without straw manning them. But in my more woke classes like anthropology and SSCI, society is used as actually like an example of what expectations are. And there's almost this like, it's almost like a monolith. Like these people that speak for society, they claim to understand all the workings of the society, but I do not think a society has ever existed or ever will. And if it did, where does it end or begin?
First of all, what question do you have?
I would like to know if you would join me in that elimination of that, because it leads to this ambiguity, and it may not.
Well, what's your definition of society?
I do not think it can be divined or defined.
Then why do you want to get rid of it if you don't know how it's defined? How are people using it wrongly if you don't know what the definition is?
That's my point. It's a nebulous thing that cannot be completely
We might say
defined.
the American society. We have a certain culture here. We have a certain way of doing things here. It might be different than, say, the English society or the Iranian society. I think that's a fair term to use. So why is that not a fair term?
Well,
and what does this have to do with whether or not God exists?
Because I believe that this is worshipped by those that do not believe in God, this idea of a society, not so much
That society is the standard, you mean?
that there is a standard like that.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. That would just be that's what sociology is. That's how people do behave, where morality is how people ought to behave. And so it's interesting that some people in academia claim there is no morality, how we ought to behave, yet they will say colonialism is wrong.
That's what I'm trying to
Why
articulate.
is colonialism wrong if there is no morality? If say the English, the British were colonialists, that was just what they did. Why is that wrong if there is no morality over all society? So I think you have to use the term. You can use another term if you want, but I don't see any reason you can't use society.
Okay. Then I have one more question.
No, let's do this, Paul. Got a long line. If you want to ask another question, that's fine, but go to the back and you can come back up. All right? Thanks. Nolan, you're up next. Thank you. Go ahead,
How's it
sir.
going? Nice seeing you again. So I have.
Yes, hi, what's your name?
I'll just say my name is Mav.
Say what?
Mav.
Mav.
M-A-V. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my question for you is, if God said that there is going to be male and female, and then there's some variety within that called intersex people, why do you guys insist on this binary definition of sex when clearly biology is not so binary? There are intersex people, and you'll say, oh, it's just 1% of people, et cetera, et cetera. And then also, let's extend that to same-sex relationships. So you say that if I'm going to be a Christian again, then I need to repent from being LGBT.
Let me ask you a question. What is your standard of morality?
I'm a secular humanist. I think that everybody is innately good.
What do you mean by good?
Well, obviously murder is wrong.
Why?
Because if I went and murdered someone's kid, then...
Whose moral standard? I mean, Hitler had a pretty tight moral standard within Germany. Why was he wrong?
Well, obviously he was wrong on many levels. I mean, the fact that he murdered millions of people...
But by what standard? Why is it wrong to murder people?
Well, I'm just going to say, within my own experience, if I witness the murder of someone, which I gratefully have not, I would be, obviously, like there would be a sinking feeling inside of me like, wow, I just witnessed the loss of someone's life. That's a terrible thing to see. Like if someone got ran over by a car and it was so quick and you just...
One of the ways you might know that something's wrong The question is, why is it wrong if there's no God?
Well, I just think that as a society, we wouldn't be able to just say like, oh, we should allow murder, we should allow this and stuff to happen, because obviously slavery was wrong. We abolished that. Obviously.
Okay, you're bringing up all sorts of moral wrongs, but
what I'm saying is that was what we need to cooperate as a human race,
Yeah,
regardless of whether there's a God or not, because evolution has incentivized cooperation. If I share my fruit with my person, they're going to survive. If I take care of the elderly person in my clan, they're going to survive.
No.
If I take care of the children in my village, they're going to survive. The human race will survive and reproduce, and therefore everyone else is benefited from it.
Mav, evolution is survival of the fittest.
That's not true. There's a lot more to it than you're strawmanning evolution. You're just so wrong about this stuff. I'm sorry.
Where am I wrong about evolution being the survival of the fittest?
You probably read that guy who
Darwin
funded the Ark Encounter. Maybe you or whatever in Kentucky. You probably read his straw man version of evolution, and I really don't think that you really talk to biologists and you really know what's going on, because there's a whole lot of stuff that a lot of you guys will just straw man and not even take as like what it actually says.
Hold on, okay? Got a lot of people behind here. I'm asking you simple questions. You come up asking a moral question. I'm asking for a moral standard. You haven't given me a moral standard.
I've said objective morality. That is a moral standard.
Where does the objective morality come if there is no God? I'm not the source of objective.
From within our wiring, from collaborating with other people. Okay. There are negative consequences to murder, obviously.
Negative is a moral term. You're importing a moral standard into your atheistic system, and you're stealing it from a theistic worldview.
That's not true.
Well, I'm sorry. You
there
don't
are so
get
many
morality.
Moral standards besides Christianity.
Mav.
There's Buddhism. There's
all right, stop.
Shintoism.
Mav,
there's
stop.
all these different moral codes from all over the world that I've read about, that I've imported. So that's not true.
Mav, I'm going to have to ask you to move away from the microphone unless you give me a chance to respond. Okay?
Fair enough.
Okay. So there is no objective moral standard unless some kind of God exists. Everything is just a matter of human opinion. And so when you hold up a sign that says that certain people have treated LGBTQ people wrongly,
they have, and there's so much evidence for it.
Mav, you might be exactly right about that. But
I know I am. I have experiences and data to back it up.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that people have treated you poorly. But
you don't have to go on and spread these bigoted viewpoints on YouTube and Facebook like you do. It's just a bunch of misinformation. You have no idea. You have blood on your hands.
Okay, Mav. Do you want to have a conversation, or you just want to...
No, I really just would like you to just apologize and turn around and see that what you're doing is harmful.
Mav, there's only harm if God exists. Harm is only evil if God exists. And so you're stealing...
There's harm regardless if God exists or not.
Thank you, Mav. You're not interested. Thank you for coming. Hey, Mav, if I gave you a book, would you read it?
Is it on Audible? I have severe ADHD.
People behind you, thank you for your question. All right, Paul.
If somebody offered to explain how to see the Big Bang physically, would you listen?
If someone offered to do what?
To explain how to see the Big Bang, would you listen?
Well, you can see the Big Bang. You can see the remnants of the Big Bang. You can go back and see the radiation afterglow. You can see that the James Webb Space Telescope just verified that the universe is expanding, which is showing the rushing out of and the creation of space from the creation event. So when you look out into space, you're seeing history. Like when you look up at the sun, you're seeing the sun as it was 8 minutes ago, right? Okay, so yeah, you are looking at the past when you look out in space. So what's the question?
So that's what I'm trying to say, is if we put a mirror on the sun, we would see ourselves 16 minutes ago.
True. Yeah,
we would be able to see ourselves walk up to the telescope.
Okay.
So if we put the mirror out far enough, we would be able to see the inception or the conception of the universe. Now,
well, we're getting close with the James Webb Space Telescope. I think they can see back to within 300,000 years or so. But I don't know the exact number. So what's the import of this? What's the question?
Would you look and see the beginning, or would you maintain your faith? I mean, I feel like
I believe there was a beginning. What do you mean? Were you here for the first argument?
I was here for the entire.
Okay, I believe that there was a beginning to the universe. So,
But I believe that seeing it is proof, and proof removes faith.
oh no, faith doesn't mean you have no evidence. Faith means trusting in what you have good evidence to believe. That's what faith means. Trusting in what you have good evidence to believe. It doesn't mean you have no evidence. That would be blind faith. We're saying that we have good evidence to believe there was a beginning, and we're trusting in that evidence. That's all.
That's all I got.
All right? Thanks, Paul. All right, yes, sir. Go ahead. What's your name?
Vince.
And the last question is Anthony. Go ahead.
Okay, I just had a question. What's your view